Hello guys, welcome back. Now today, I'm going to be ranking every single prospect pool in the NHL, 31 down to 1. Now since the 2019 NHL draft is completed, now is the best time to rank every single prospect pool in the entire NHL. So where does your favorite team rank in my list, and which team do I think has the best prospect pool in the NHL? Watch till the end to find out. Now in ranking every single prospect pool in the NHL, it's a little bit of an undertaking, but for most NHL teams, I love what they have to offer prospect-wise throughout the organization. And even if your team is lower in the rankings, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have bad prospects, your prospect pool is terrible, it just means you're less good than the other NHL teams. Starting us off at number 31, and in my opinion, the worst prospect pool in the entire NHL I have is the Boston Bruins. And when it comes to the Bruins, they have some decent prospects, but nobody that really stands out to you. Now, this past draft, they ended up selecting John Beecher 30th overall. In my opinion, one of the worst picks in the first round. And John Beecher pretty much encapsulates the Boston Bruins prospect pool. Average at best, and a lot of the prospects are okay, they're decent, they will be decent players in the NHL, but I don't see any star guys there, and I don't really see much depth either. That's the problem with Boston. Obviously, they've been a contending team for the past couple of years, so it is forgivable, but it's not exactly great either. Moving on to number 3, for my 30th ranked prospect pool, I have the Columbus Blue Jackets, and kind of like the Boston Bruins, because they've been contending and because they went for it, their prospect pool has kind of been struggling because of it. Now, the big guy they have is Bemstrom, who had an amazing SHL season last season. He's looking like a late round gem and should be that in the future. You've also got Liam Foudy, the guy who they selected in last year's draft. A decent prospect, still a little bit of a reach at this point, but still is decent. But again, with Columbus, they have some decent prospects. A little bit more star talent than Boston, but not by too much. Moving on to number 29, and at number 29, I have the Washington Capitals. Now, to be fair, a couple of months ago when I made my initial top 5 worst prospect pools, Washington, I believe, was the worst one. So, upgrading from 31 to 29 ain't bad at all, and this past draft, they had a pretty decent one. Getting Connor McMichael, getting Brett Leeson, 2 solid adds to that forward group, and again, you also got Samsonov, the goalie of the future, in that prospect pool. So Washington, again, it's not great by any means, but you can at least see improvement, I guess. Moving on to 28, and at 28, I have the St. Louis Blues. Now, the Stanley Cup champions don't need whatsoever to have a good prospect pool, but they have some decent options. Of course, they got Jordan Kyrou, they also got Klim Kostin, 2 solid forward prospects too, and of course, in this past draft, they got Nikita Alexandrov, a guy who I'm a pretty big fan of, so I think St. Louis still has a decent prospect pool. Again, nobody that's going to be a start in the league, but you got some decent prospects, and again, the Stanley Cup champions, they don't need a prospect pool whatsoever, but they got some decent ones too. Moving on to number 27, and at number 27, I have the San Jose Sharks, a team that again has been contending for so long that they don't really have the chance to have that amazing prospect pool, but still have some decent prospects. You got Ryan Merkley there, Dylan Gambrell, Blackfield from the WHL, Danish-born prospect, you got Chmielewski too. San Jose has a lot of depth prospects, nobody that I don't think will be a star, but San Jose obviously has a great development record, they've been fantastic at drafting, so for me, while those prospects don't jump out, I will trust them to develop those guys. Moving on to number 26, and at number 26, I have the Pittsburgh Penguins, a team like the Capitals, who had a very poor overall prospect pool a couple months ago. This past draft improved it quite a bit. Now, last year's draft I was a big fan of. They didn't have a first round pick, but they got Calen Addison and Philip Haller in the second round, 2 guys I'm a huge fan of, and this past draft also got 2 fantastic guys, Samuel Plulin and Nathan Legare. While it's not a star-loaded prospect pool by any means, I think it is decent, and those guys can be impact players in the future. Moving on to number 25, and at number 25, I have the Calgary Flames, a team that, again, has been contending in the past couple of years, hasn't gotten a big chance to really stockpile that prospect pool, but they still have a decent one. Guys like Dylan Dubé, getting Jacob Pelletier in the last draft as well, also having Yusuf Alamaki. They have some decent prospects both forward-wise and defensively that will be decent players. Again, nothing that's fantastic, but it's pretty solid. Moving on to number 24, and at number 24, I have the Minnesota Wild, a team that's made the playoffs for so long, it's about time they do restock that prospect pool. Now, obviously, you got the big guy, Kirill Kaprizov, probably going to be one of the next NHL stars in the next couple of years. This past draft, they ended up getting first up, and Matthew Boldy, 2 solid as that prospect pool. You also got guys like Connor Dewar, Sokolov, who are already there. Minnesota has a decent prospect pool, and obviously, you got the 1-star Kirill Kaprizov, which just makes it a whole lot better. Moving on to number 23, 23, and at 23, I have the Winnipeg Jets, a team that's been kind of assembling a finished squad when it comes to the prospect pool especially. Now, obviously, the three big guys, in my opinion, are Ville Heinola, Sami Niku, and Christian Vesalainen. Three fantastic finished prospects, and for Winnipeg, again, they already have a very solid finished core, but those three guys will be impact players in the future and will be solid players in the NHL. Moving on to number 22, and at 22, I had the Vegas Golden Knights, a team that had one of the best prospect pools a couple years ago when they were first in the draft, but now are still just okay. Now, Vegas has a lot of options, especially star-wise, having guys like Cody Glass, Payne Krebs, Pavel Dorofiev, now Nick Hague. Vegas has a lot of stuff up front, but the depth is a little bit of an issue in my opinion. They don't have too many guys that can be NHL guys, can be NHL type players, but obviously when you have Cody Glass, Payne Krebs, you don't exactly have to worry about that. Now advancing on to 21, and at 21, I have the Edmonton Oilers, a team that frankly should have a better prospect pool, but doesn't right now. Now the two big defensive prospects being Evan Bouchard and Philip Broberg, two guys that I personally am not the biggest fan of. And when it comes to Edmonton, again, I think they've had great chances to select better players, better prospects, but haven't really taken that opportunity. They have some decent prospects still left and in their system, guys like Tyler Benson, Ethan Bear, and obviously Caleb Jones, but they don't have that amazing prospect that I think should have been picked where they were. Evan Bouchard, I think there were better players available, same especially with Philip Broberg. So for Edmonton, they have a decent prospect pool. It just could have been a whole lot better. Now going on to number 20, and at number 20, I have the Nashville Predators, a team that, again, like the Winnipeg Jets, like other teams, doesn't really need a great prospect pool, but still is a pretty decent one. Obviously, the top guys being Philip Tomasino, now Eeli Tolvanen, some fantastic guys there. You always got Dante Fabro, who will lead that defense for years to come. So for Nashville, again, their prospect pool was amazing a couple years ago. Again, they haven't done a great job of keeping those prospects together. They've traded some of those guys, which, again, for a contending team makes sense. But for Nashville, they still have some excellent guys that can be stars in the future, especially a guy like Eeli Tolvanen. Moving on to number 19, and at number 19, I have my favorite team, the Dallas Stars. And when it comes to Dallas, I don't really have too much bias towards them, at least prospect-wise, but I do like a lot of the guys they have right now and are going for the future. Now, obviously, this past draft, they got Thomas Harley, a great add, I think, at number 19. You also got some established guys like Jake Ottinger, Jason Robertson, who will be fantastic too. And when it comes to Dallas, again, they have some decent depth prospect-wise, but they also got some fantastic other guys. And again, D'Angelo in last draft could be solid for them too. But I like the overall game of the prospect pool, both forward-wise, defensively, and goaltending. Now moving on to number 18, and at number 18, I have the Arizona Coyotes, a team that, again, one of those teams that probably should have a better prospect pool, but still some decent guys to their name. Now, of course, last draft, they ended up getting Barrett Hayton, 5th overall. He's advanced a little bit better than I think some people might have expected. This past draft, they ended up getting Victor Soderstrom, a decent player, especially in that top 15. And again, when it comes to Arizona, they don't have too much to go off, but they still have some decent prospects. It's nothing special, it's nothing crazy, but it's good enough. Now advancing on to number 17, and at number 17, I have the Tampa Bay Lightning, a team with a ton of prospect depth. It's kind of insane. Now, of course, they got the Foot brothers, two fantastic prospects. You also got Fortier, Volkov, you got Kachuk, you got Stevens, you got Radish. A ton of depth, both from top to bottom. And Tampa should have nowhere near the prospect pool they have. But due to excellent drafting and excellent development, they're one of the best prospect pools in the entire NHL, especially when it comes to contending teams. 16, I have the Florida Panthers. Again, the Florida teams back-to-back. But Florida has an excellent prospect pool and strengthened it quite a bit this past draft. Now, of course, you got the big forward guys, Heponiemi, Denisenko, Tippett, but you also got some other prospects. Of course, you got Spencer Knight, 12th overall, who likely will be the goalie of the future. You also got Max Geldin, Kolyachonok on that defensive side, two guys that I personally am a pretty big fan of. But when it comes to Florida, again, they got a lot of prospects, a lot of fantastic ones, and guys like Heponiemi will be stars in the NHL someday. Going to the middle of the prospect rankings, and at number 15, I have the New Jersey Devils. Now, obviously, having Jack Hughes, I think makes them a slam dunk top 15 prospect pool, but other than that, I think they have some decent prospects, but nothing that really won me over saying that they're a slam dunk top 15 prospect pool besides Jack Hughes. Now, obviously, you got Ty Smith, you got Boquist, McLeod, you got Monahan in this past draft. And I think when it comes to New Jersey, again, they added a lot of depth in this past draft. I think a ton of different picks, but besides Jack Hughes, it isn't amazing, but because of Jack Hughes, it is pretty good. Going on to number 14, and at number 14, I have the Detroit Red Wings, a team that is pretty much stuck in the middle of the rebuild right now, but is looking at the light at the end of the tunnel. Now, they have some fantastic prospects right now, guys like Vilazanania, Sider, you obviously got Joe Veleno, Begrin, you got Jared Isaac, you got Hirose there, and when it comes to Detroit, again, I think for them to be a top 10 prospect pool, they probably need one more year in the draft, but I think with Detroit, they have some excellent prospects. I'm a big fan of, obviously, Philip Zania, Joe Veleno especially, Maurice Sider is an absolute stud. So for Detroit, it might be a little bit low for them, but overall, the depth isn't too great in my opinion, but the star power ain't bad at all. Going on to number 13, and at 13th overall, I have the Vancouver Canucks, and they're a team that, again, a lot of their prospects have kind of graduated. You have Elias Pettersson, Brock Besser, Bo Horvat on the other side of the tunnel, but there's some amazing prospects still left right now. Now, I still classify Quinn Hughes as a prospect. I don't think he's officially graduated yet, so that's why they are a little bit higher than they probably should be, but even without him, they have some fantastic prospects still there. You got Nils Hoglander, especially in this past draft, Vasily Podkolzin, you got Jet Wu, Oli Levy, and overall, when it comes to Vancouver, Vacher Demko on the goalie, you have forward, defense, and goalie all set for the future, and if Vacher Demko can develop well, I think Vancouver will be fantastic, and that prospect pool, I think, signifies that. With how much they have going for them, star-wise and depth-wise, they will be very scary. Now, advancing on to 12th, and at 12th overall, I have the Toronto Maple Leafs, a team with no superstar prospect, but a lot of very good ones. Now, the top three being Rasmus Sandin, Nicholas Robertson, Timothy Liljegren, fantastic right there, and Rasmus Sandin, probably one of the best defensive prospects in the league right now, but even after that, it doesn't really fall off too much. You got Adam Brooks, you got Bracco, you got Mikko Kokkin in this past draft, you have Ian Scott, maybe the goaltender of the future. So for Toronto, they have some fantastic prospects overall in every single position, and honestly, as a Maple Leafs fan, I can't complain. Now, going just outside of the top 10, and at number 11, I have the Buffalo Sabres, a team that right now is in their rebuild technically with some fantastic young players already on the roster. They have a lot of prospects still waiting to come up. Now, in this past draft, they ended up getting Cousins, a big-time center that will be a second-line center for them in the future, which is an excellent add for them. You also got some solid guys like Victor Olofsson, you got Palut, you got Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, one of my favorite names in the entire NHL, if I'm being honest. You also got Rasmus Asplund with Rochester. But when it comes to Buffalo, again, their prospect pool isn't top tier, but adding Dylan Cousins to that, I think, is a huge add for them. And Buffalo already has a pretty solid future right now, but that prospect pool definitely adds to it. Advancing into the top 10 and starting the top 10 out at number 10, I had the Chicago Blackhawks, a team that is kind of in the retool mode but has a lot of great prospects coming up the ranks. Now, of course, they just ended up trading for Alex Nylander, a trade that I'm personally not the biggest fan of, but Alex Nylander is a decent prospect. But besides that, you got great guys like Kirby Dach, who they had third overall. You got some fantastic defensive prospects in Boquist, Ian Mitchell, and of course, you got Nicholas Baudini. You got some solid guys like Kurashev on the forward side of things, and of course Nylander, who they just ended up trading for. For Chicago, again, they have a lot of different positions. Goaltending, they also got Delia, who's still technically a prospect, but forward-wise and defensively, I can't really complain with them. Even though they're my least favorite team, I am a pretty big fan of what they're assembling right now. Now, getting into the top 9, and at number 9, I have the New York Islanders, a team that's had a very sneaky prospect pool in the past couple of years, and even though they are contending right now, they have one of the best prospect pools in the entire NHL. Now, of course, you got the big guys, Oliver Wahlstrom, you got Ilya Sorokin, who is the goaltender of the future, probably the best goalie prospect in the league right now. You also got Dobson, who could be an answer on that top of our defense. You also got Kiefer Bello, who's fantastic. Holmstrom, who just got in this past draft. You got Bodie Wild, you got Ishkarov in last year's draft. Overall, goaltending-wise, they're fantastic. Forward-wise, they're fantastic. Defensively, they're great too. And New York already is a fantastic team, but adding that prospect pool to that team should be fun to watch. Advancing into the straight 8s, at 8th overall, I have the Anaheim Ducks. They're a team that, especially after this past draft, starting from their prospect pool into the top tier of the NHL. Now, this past draft, of course, they got Zegras at 9th overall. In my opinion, one of the biggest steals of the NHL draft. Absolutely fantastic player there. They also got Brandon Tracy at 29th overall, I do believe. Fantastic player there, too. Will be solid for Anaheim. But, of course, the prospects they have already on the team that are left over are great, too. You got guys like Sam Steele, who could be a second-line center for them. Troy Terry, the American-born hero. You also got guys like Comtois, Josh Mahura, who will be decent on that defense. So when it comes to Anaheim, again, they got a lot of stuff to choose from. They don't really need a goalie prospect since Josh Gibson is a now and in the future. But forward-wise, defensively, so far Anaheim in their rebuild has done a pretty great job. And especially after this past draft, they got a good thing going for them. Going on to number 7, and at 7th overall, I have the Ottawa Senators, a team that at this point needs a good prospect pool to succeed, and guess what? They do have a pretty good one. Now, despite not having their 4th overall pick this past season in this draft, they still did a relatively good job overall prospect-wise. Now, of course, you got the big guy, Eric Brandstrom, one of the best defensive prospects in the entire NHL, but you also got some amazing forward guys like Drake Bafferson, Logan Brown, Abramov, Davidson. You got Thompson there, who they just got, Pinto, who they just got, and Matt Zogard, who could be a goaltender of the future for them and has that potential. So for Ottawa, pretty much all around, they have a lot of great prospects, and especially forward-wise, we'll see what they're really made of this next season as they get much bigger opportunities. Going on to number 6, and at number 6, I have the Colorado Avalanche, a team with, prospect-wise, not a lot to hate, and a lot of fantastic star power. One of the best star-powered prospect pools in the entire NHL. Now, I don't really need to explain this. You got Cale Makar, Bowen Byram, Alex Newhook, Martin Kaut, some fantastic guys there, obviously. And even outside of that, you got some great prospects. Guys like Granta, Timmins, you got Shane Bowers. Some very solid prospects, but the star prospects is what you focus on. Cale Makar, Bowen Byram, probably one of the best future pairings in the entire NHL. And I think Alex Newhook and Martin Kaut, who will be a great defensive forward in the NHL, just makes it even more scarier. Now, advancing into the final 5, the top 5. And at number 5, starting us on the top 5, I have the LA Kings, a team that probably has one of the biggest rising prospect pools in the entire NHL. One of the best drafts we've seen in a long time. The LA Kings are here to stay. Now, this past draft, they did an excellent job getting Alex Turcotte 5th overall, Arthur Kaliyev in the 2nd round, Samuel Vega Mo 2, some fantastic guys already left over, like Akil Thomas, Rasmus Kupari, Kale Clagg. You also got Gabe Vilardi, who has a little bit of back issues, but still has a lot of potential there. You also got Carl Grundstrom, who did well, Tobias Bjornfot, who they got in the draft, and Anderson Dolan, who got a couple of drafts ago. But overall, when it comes to LA, last year they probably shouldn't have a good prospect pool as they probably should have, but this past draft they just did a masterful job. Got a lot of guys that I do appreciate and just turned it all around from bottom up to the top. Advancing on to number 4, and at number 4 I have the Philadelphia Flyers, a team with so much development record, so much drafting pedigree, that right now the prospect pool is looking even more golden. Now, Philadelphia depth-wise is so good, but on the star-wise, you got some fantastic guys too. Obviously, you got Morgan Frost, one of the best prospects in the NHL right now, Joel Barabee, Cam York, Felipe Myers, Igor Zemyola, Isaac Ratcliffe, you got Samuel Urson, goaltender, you got German Rupsov. Obviously, when it comes to Philadelphia, they already got Carter Hart, who graduated this past season, and he's a good telltale sign of how good Philadelphia's prospect pool really is. Forward-wise, defensively, they don't really have a lot of things lacking right now, and right now, in my opinion, it's one of the best in the league. Now, advancing into the top 3, and at number 3, I have the Montreal Canadiens, a team that, especially after this past draft, strengthened themselves into one of the best prospect pools in the entire NHL. Now, you got Cole Caulfield, Ryan Poehling, Nick Suzuki, Josh Brook, Caden Premu, Alexander Romanov, Cale Fleury, Jaden Struble, Jesse Yalman. You also got Matthias Norlander, who they just got in this past draft. And overall, when it comes to Montreal, again, as I said before, forward-wise, defensively, goaltending, everything you'd want is in this prospect pool, star-wise, depth-wise. Every position is filled with Montreal, and they got that to a T. Especially forward-wise, we have so many guys that can make a big impact, and Cole Caulfield at number 15 is just plain unfair. Advancing into the final 2 teams, the top 2 of my prospect pool rankings between the New York Rangers and the Carolina Hurricanes. And between these 2 teams, it was so hard to decide. I love both prospect pools, the players that they offer, and the players that will be in the NHL in the future. But at number 2, once I announce it, number 1 will be obvious, but at number 2, my second best prospect pool in NHL, I have the New York Rangers. And they're a team with such a good rebuild so far, not even 2 years in, has so much to offer. So many different guys like Kakko, Vitaly Kravtsov, Keandre Miller, Igor Shesterkin, Adam Fox, Neil Lundqvist, Matthew Robertson, Elias Anderson, Carl Henriksen, Levi Altonen, so many different guys, again, like Montreal, but even to a greater extent. Forward, defense, goaltending. That's what you need in a prospect pool, and NYR has all of that and even more. Because I revealed who was number 2, you now know who is number 1, and for the best prospect pool, in my opinion, in the entire National Hockey League, I have the Carolina Hurricanes. And a couple months ago, if you saw my top 5 prospect pools, I think it was back in January or February, I had the Carolina Hurricanes number 1. And while Carolina didn't have a top prospect or a top pick in this past draft, They didn't necessarily need to. They had a lot of fantastic draft picks throughout the NHL draft and filled depth-wise a prospect pool that was one of the best, if not the best, depth-wise already. I'm going to list 16 names that I think will be impact players in the NHL, and guess what? That's a lot of players right there. You have Martin Necas, Ryan Suzuki, Jake Bean, Yano Kukkonen, Stelio Matheos, Jameson Reese, Patrick Pistola, Morgan Geekie, Ido Lesterainen, Tony Honka, Dominic Fensori, Jack Drury, Alex Nedeljkovic, Tuukka Tixila, Jesper Sellgren, Julian Gauthier, and that's just the tip of the iceberg for Carolina's prospect pool. There's a bunch of guys, depth-wise, that could be NHL players in the future that I didn't even name. That's how good Carolina's system is right now, and that's how good they changed their franchise around. In their AHL system, in Charlotte, they've done such a great job of developing prospects, and they just won the Calder Cup. All those prospects had a big role in winning that Calder Cup, and a big reason why they won it. So, for Carolina, I really have no doubt that they'll develop these guys right, because they have been doing that in the past couple of years. Again, changing that franchise around in that way, and it's big, big news. Again, Carolina having such a good prospect pool. They're already a scary NHL team making the Eastern Conference Final, but now having the best prospect pool in NHL makes it just a little bit more scary for Carolina and makes them one of the best future teams in the entire NHL. But of course, with this video, I need to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments down below. So let me know, what do you think about this gigantic video ranking every single NHL prospect pool? Let me know, what do you agree with, what do you disagree with? Let me know down in the comments. And of course, the question on to you, who do you think has the best prospect pool in the NHL? But if you guys want some more Grav videos just like this one, you can click on this card right here to watch my video on my top 5 NHL teams with the brightest futures. But that'll be it for today, guys. If you guys enjoy, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Again, comment down below your thoughts on my full prospect pool rankings and who you think is the best prospect pool in the NHL. And I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Goodbye.